Starting tonight, Democrats are going to try to round up support and excitement for the 2020 election straight from home. So nope, no balloon drops and cheering crowds. The Democratic National Convention is going virtual in the first day. Delegates wave their flags from their living rooms as Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris prepare to receive their nomination. This is a really big night, and joining me to talk about it is NBC's senior political editor, Mark Murray. Thanks for being here with us. Now, Mark, some pretty big names are set to speak tonight, like Senator Bernie Sanders and former First Lady Michelle Obama. But there is a notable Republican speaker as well. How do you expect tonight will really set the tone for this week's convention and the election overall?
Yeah, the Republican speaker that you mentioned, former Ohio Governor John Kasich, the Biden campaign and the Democratic convention planners are going to be featuring him, as well as some other Republicans, to kind of show that the Democratic Party, or trying to show the Democratic Party, is a big tent, ranging from the likes of Bernie Sanders to John Kasich. But there's some other issues the Democrats want to hammer home. One has to do with racial justice after the killing of George Floyd, and that's going to be a very big topic tonight, as is the coronavirus, where Democratic speakers like New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, as well as Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, are going to be talking about their states' response to the coronavirus, and really trying to contrast how a Biden administration would deal with the coronavirus versus the Trump administration. So those are the big topics for tonight, the first of 4 nights of the Democratic convention, as you mentioned, unlike any other that we've ever covered before.
All right, so Joe Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, we know she has spent almost a week now in the spotlight. How would we say voters are responding to her as a possible VP?
Yeah, we have some early indications from our brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that show that Kamala Harris has a net positive rating. That means that more people have a more positive view of her than a negative one. In fact, she's the second most popular politician in our poll, behind Barack Obama. And of course, Barack Obama and Kamala Harris will be speaking to the Democratic convention on Wednesday. So those are some positive numbers for her, but it also breaks along party lines, where Democratic voters have a very good impression of Kamala Harris and Republican voters not so much.
All right, let's talk about this. So with everyone, really watching the convention from a live stream from home, you think the Democrats are going to be able to engage the audience and really, get that energy going from the voters, like they would have done at a physical event?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard how you're able to kind of tap into energy and make it a must-see TV opportunity for people to watch. The Democrats do have a couple of things in their favor. Number one, there is a captive audience. There are a lot of less competing interests for people, and so there might be a lot of folks who want to tune in to tonight's coverage and all the speeches. The other thing they have going for them, this gets to be a much more controlled environment. The Democrats are kind of in control of the speeches. We saw 4 years ago, there were all these Bernie Sanders delegates that were trying to interrupt the Hillary Clinton's convention. That you're going to have less of those kind of spontaneous. This is a whole lot more scripted, so maybe not as exciting, but certainly something that the campaign and both conventions, Republican, Democratic ones, can control a whole lot more.
All right, we'll see how it all turns out. Very different. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Mark Murray. NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt will have more on the issues at stake in this election coming up tonight for you at 6:30. Thanks again, Mark, for joining us.